Are you serious? Are you serious? I don't want to say I was right, so you just have to say it for me. But I told you that Paris, that the riots in France were going to blow up, that it was going to be horrible. You haven't really seen anything yet. And that it would spill over into other nations. And that's exactly what's happened now. The Netherlands, Belgium, again. But here's the report. 37 minutes ago, riots in Paris, the streets right now ahead of Macron's address. The president Macron's going to speak. France has been rocked by violence again. Anti-government protesters are battling the police and triggering damage in the heart of Paris and everywhere else in France. As many as 2,000 people have now been arrested this weekend, a record in the history of France for one day. 2,000. Okay. Also, 264 people have been injured. 39 of those police officers. This is the fourth week of the protest and followers along another weekend of violence, which caused over $1 billion in damages to business and others. It started as a revolt against the hike of taxes on gasoline and diesel fuel, hence the yellow vest protest worn by the activists. Standard emergency gear in French cars aimed by the French government at dealing with global warming. Okay, that's what this tax was supposed to be about. It has morphed into a broader attack on high taxes, low wages, and migration. So it's taxation, migration, globalization, and frustration. That's what you got. And that's what we've been saying. And I've been telling folks this, and I'm saying, look, I hate to tell you this, but Macron waited too long. Then when he did finally address it, he said, well, I'm suspending the tax for 6 months. That was like poking these people in the eye. They rose up then and they've absolutely lost their minds. Now he says, okay, no more. We won't do the tax. They're like, yeah, that's right. You're not going to do tax. Matter of fact, you're not going to be around to even talk to us. You're not going to be our leader. You got to go. Okay. So now he's going to make a last second plea. He's going to give an address. Meanwhile, while he's getting ready for that, at the end of the day, Yellow Vest protest, we get the impression that we're nothing but modern slaves. This is not good, folks. But this is right out of the playbook of the Illuminati, is to treat the people like slaves and to just say, look, we don't care what you think. Your vote don't matter. Okay, you're going to do what we say. That's right out of the Illuminati playbook. I got a book in here. It's over 100 years old. That's what it says they would do. But beyond that, the protests are aimed at the person seen as behind France's troubles today, French President Emmanuel Macron. Voted in overwhelmingly last year to make changes, but his reforms didn't make their life better. It made them worse. His reforms have seen by many that he just totally benefited the rich, leaving the middle class and the working poor behind. Well, it's true. And then he wanted to throw, right now the price of gasoline is $6.60 in France, and he wanted to throw a 53-cent tax on top of that. It's not a revolt, it's a revolution, they're saying. Political analyst Christine Mallard, they don't want to keep Macron anymore. He's got to go. They want to get rid of him, and it's an uprising against Macron. He has to go. I mean, his numbers are worse than Mussolini's. What? So adding a dangerous and violent punch to the protest are militant left-wing and right-wing activists, including youth from the tough suburbs of Paris and other big cities. And France's Interior Minister, Castaner, had a warning to the protesters that they had created a monster that was out of control. Now, the warning, I guess, really is from the people to the government of France, that they're out of control. That's really the warning. That's where the warning is. And I don't think they have fully understood that. And so what's happening is, what does President Macron have to say about all this? So far, very little, except please leave me alone, I want to stay. Some tweets praising the police force, which just only threw more gasoline on a raging fire. He's behaving like a real monarch. He's aloof. he added about the protesters, when the king is wrong, they want to kill the king or remove him from office. So he's kind of basically minimizing them. So this is sad, folks, and I'm concerned. I am more than concerned. Now, who's behind all this? You say, well, the people. They're upset. They're frustrated. Oh, I know they're upset, and they're frustrated. And they're rising up as any people would rise up at some point. But who's behind all of this? Is the war machine behind all of this? Is the military-industrial complex licking their chops after the overall? You see what I'm saying? Because this thing is going to spill over, folks. And as I did a show Friday, the EU is shattered. And I know I got a couple emails that says, Begley, you're jumping the gun. I said, no, I'm not. You don't understand. Look at the taxation and you'll figure it out. And I showed the chart on Friday that the first 14 highest tax nations in the world are all in the European Union. Did you really think this was going to survive? And the first sign that it wasn't going to make it is the UK leaving the EU, the Brexit. And the worst sign is after 2.5 years, they can't get out. The people voted to Brexit, and 2.5 years later, they're still entangled in this mess. So watch out, because what this means is the Yellow Vest protests already spreading into Belgium, already spreading into the Netherlands. The UK is just around the corner. Italy, Greece, Germany, those taxes are just way too high. Taxation, migration, globalization, frustration. Now, Bart Begley, my son, has wrote an article at his website, thecrusaderjournal.com, and his title is France on the Verge, Violent Riots in Paris, Protests Spread Across Europe. He said Saturday saw the violent riots in the streets of Paris, France, as over 100,000 protesters clashed with riots. When the media first reported it, they said there was 31,000 protesters. I just started laughing. I said, you mean 131,000? Now we're getting the true numbers, way over 100,000. And they're still downplaying the numbers because the government don't want you to really know, the government of France, what's really happening there. The EU doesn't want to report on this. Matter of fact, the mainstream media in America, you don't even know how to report on it. Okay? But you had way over 100,000 protesters. They've clashed with riot police officials across the country, including the cities of Lyon, Toulouse, Bordeaux. Many businesses, museums, and numerous other attractions in the French capital, Paris, already were closed before this thing ever started. The Eiffel Tower, there was thousands of police officers trying to protect the Eiffel Tower. You got 2,000 arrests. France's interior minister said there was 125,000 demonstrators. That's getting closer to the number. He's still short. And they took to the streets all across the country. It's not just Paris. As the protesters and the riots have now spread to other cities and communities throughout France, according to reporting from local media. The riot police, the protesters also clashed in other French cities. The Chicago Tribune is reporting that central Paris was filled with armored police vehicles and tear gas as the French law enforcement officials clashed with thousands of yellow-vested protesters. You got to believe that President Macron is going to step down. Whether he wants to or not, I think the other lawmakers are going to force him to save themselves. Okay? Now, French law enforcement officials said they've arrested, like we said, over 2,000 people, over 224 people injured, 39 of those police officers. This is ugly. And that was after 400 people got arrested last Saturday. The Yellow Vest protests and anti-carbon tax protest spread to the neighboring European countries of Belgium now and the Netherlands, as they have very high taxation also. Belgium's riot police tear gassed and used water cannons on yellow-vested protesters after they attempted to breach a riot barricade for the resignation of their Prime Minister, Charles Michel. So, see, they want to take down their. So this is like your Arab Spring, but in Europe. Now, the global elitist, the people are mad about this globalization, migration, taxation, no representation, frustration, and now you're seeing the manifestation. But here's the problem. The worse it gets, the more it plays into the hands of the globalists, of the New World Order, if you will, and someone would have to rise up to be the savior, to fix it. And that sets up for a very dangerous situation for a new EU leader. If you get 4 or 5 of these presidents taken out by the mobs, basically they have to resign, they got to run off into exile. If 4 or 5 countries lose their presidents in the middle of this, there will be a strong man who will rise up among the European Union. And if he's the guy that fixes it for everybody, you're just set up a world leader. Okay? Now I can grab the Bible now and walk you through that. But you need to come to our show tonight. We'll get into this, okay? So don't miss it. I'll be live at 7 p.m. Eastern. 7 p.m. Eastern. Remember, the military-industrial complex is behind a lot of this. If you look at all of the tanks, armored vehicles, uniforms, everything that's being manufactured out there for both U.S. troops and others, they're not brown for desert sand. They're not made for African Sahara deserts. They're not made to go fight and save the children in Yemen. No, they're made to fight in terrain that looks very similar to the European nations, even to the American nations, even Central American nations, South American nations, even Canada. So I'm telling you, just watch what's going on here. You got to watch out for the military-industrial complex. Remember, Eisenhower warned us of that. I'll see you guys at 7 p.m. Eastern. It'll be on the backup channel. I'll put that in the description below, and I'm telling you, go to the backup channel and do not miss this program. I will be live at 7. I also have a very important announcement to make tonight that's huge. It has to do with the Sanhedrin. So don't miss tonight. I'll be live at 7 p.m. Eastern, backup channel, which is the Paul Begley Prophecy YouTube channel. Are you serious?